Good afternoon YouTube, my name's Rob Pollard. I'm the developer for Sojour, the solo VTT. This is another video on Fog of War, and it will actually be replacing the original video that was on YouTube. So if you see any of your comments have disappeared, it's because this video has replaced the previous one. It's going to cover pretty much the same kind of stuff as the previous one. The only difference is that I've managed to fix the issue that I alluded to in the previous video, and this one fix makes the Fog of War system so much easier to use that I figured let's just refilm it and then people get a much better idea what's going on. So before I start, I just want to get across what the Fog of War system isn't, and it's not a line of sight system. And I thought quite a lot about putting one in, mainly because Sojour uses a lot of technology from another one of my projects, a much bigger project called Ancient Armies, and Ancient Armies has a line of sight built into it, so it would have been very easy for me to grab the line of sight code out of there and just pop it into Sojour. But after a lot of thinking, I realised in terms of the use cases, the way Sojour would be used, it would be a bad idea. And the reason for that is for line of sight to work, you need to tell Sojour where everything is. You need to tell Sojour where these caves are, where the woods are. It needs to know everything, and it needs to know it to quite a high level of accuracy. And the only way you could do that would be by me getting you, the user, to actually draw outlines of your caves and everything else. And from a solo perspective, that's quite bad, because by the time you draw these outlines, you become a lot more familiar with the map, because the act of drawing very accurate outlines means that yes, you now know this exact shape of this cave and what it connects to and so forth. So by the time you've put in the LOS stuff for your map, you end up being intimately aware of every nook and cranny, and that takes away from the mystery in a solo game, which is why I decided we weren't going to do LOS, and instead I decided to add a Fog of War system. Of course, if any of you feel pretty strongly about that decision, then pop some comments in the chat of this YouTube video, and who knows what might come out of that. But I personally think Fog of War is a far better solution for the solo gamer. So how does Fog of War work in Sojour? Basically, you enable it with a single button, and this button works for all maps. Even all of your previous maps, this button will just work. All you do, you just press it, and the map disappears. And in fact, the only parts of the map you can see are circular areas around your characters, basically. And these circular areas follow your characters around as they move around, thus enabling you to reveal more of the map. So you're kind of discovering the map almost at the same time your characters are. And this helps with your solo role-playing, because especially if this is a map you're not too familiar with, you might be like, here I'm moving Core along, you might be thinking, I wonder where this passageway leads, and you'd have no idea because Sojour's hiding the exact details of where that goes, and the only way you can find out is actually by moving your characters in that direction. And I feel this is a much better solution to solo role-playing than a line of sight system. So what else does Sojour's Fog of War system do? Well, I provide you with what I call a mouse preview, although I do nickname it the torch sometimes. And what this does, it enables you to shine through the fog so that you can view areas of the map without necessarily permanently revealing them. And I give you various intensities of this, so it's off by default, but you can switch it on to like a weak mode. So I don't know how well this shows up on the video, but as I wave my mouse around, you can see like a weakened version of the maps. And you can keep increasing the strength, so you can go up to standard strength where the maps show up a little bit better, and you can even go all the way up to strong, and it's a pretty strong preview. So the reason why I'm covering this now as well is the fix I was alluding to in the previous video is this. This has always worked, but it never used to work whilst dragging tokens around. And for me personally, that's a big problem, because if you start off with a map completely shrouded in fog, how are you going to know where to drop your characters if you can't see the map? And this is why, to me, this is a fundamental piece of functionality. So to show it working, AIS isn't currently on the map, but we can drag him on, and note that as we drag him, we get this little preview. So it's not showing us the whole map, but it's showing us just enough to let us decide where to drop him. So, you know, we might want to drop him there by the stairs. And then we can turn off the preview and away we go. So yeah, that's a very, very handy feature, because it enables you to place tokens on the map without revealing the whole map and without having discoveries made, basically. So what else can you do? Well, the other thing is you can adjust these discovery circles. So by default, they're relatively large now. They're actually a little bit larger than they were in the original version, but you do get several sizes to choose from, and they're called reveal areas, basically. So one size I have is no reveal, and you're probably thinking, okay, what's the point of that? I give you right, because if we move Cora with no reveal on, literally nothing happens, completely pointless. And the reason for that, think of it as a preview, and the reason why is the code I wrote to support Fog of War is really advanced. It does a lot of stuff, but I've only had time to expose a small amount of its functionalities, the user interface. And one of the pieces of functionality it does support is the ability for varying levels of fog. And I strongly suspect that some role players might want to set the fog up so it's like a thin veil over the map, and then use that more for ambiance as opposed to Fog of War. When you're using it for ambiance, you don't want your characters carving paths through it, which is why that option's there. Like I say, it's a bit useless right now because you can't change the densities, at least not on the user interface. It's only something I can do in the back end. But you do get other options. You get the a small reveal area. So if we move Cora forward with a small reveal area, you see that's a much smaller circle around the character, and you can just keep going up in size after that. So you've got the medium one, which is the standard reveal area. So that's what you tend to see normally, which I think is about the optimum size, but I'm sure that as more of us provide feedback on the system, we might tweak this. And besides, my intent later on is to actually remove all these different sizes and give you the ability to actually pick a size using the map by drawing circles on there, but that's for the future. And the final size is huge, no, I skipped large, didn't I? There is a large size. Let's go large. So let's move Cora forward with a large size reveal, and as you can see, that's a lot larger. And there is one size above that, and that is huge, which is probably a bit impractical, but I'm sure someone can figure out a use for it. And then if we move Cora with a huge reveal, look at how much the map is revealed there. It's quite large. So it's quite flexible in that regard. You can pick your reveal sizes. At all these settings, they're on a per map basis. They're kind of bound to that map. So one map might have really large reveal areas, another one might have really small ones, and that stays with the map. And speaking of reveal areas, not only do they affect the size of your discovery areas, but they also affect the size of your torch. So if I was to put the torch on right now, you can see it's pretty big. Well, that's the medium setting actually, but if we put that back to huge, you'll see it's a much bigger torch, and you know, we could put it back to small, and it's a smaller torch. So the reveal size does also affect the torch size as well. So okay, what else can you do? Well, the other thing you can do is reset what you've discovered. Now Sojour stores your discoveries with each map, and that stays with it. Even if I turn Fog of War off and then turn it back on again, those discoveries remain with the map. And the only way you can get rid of them is with this button here called Reset Fog of War. Right now it's a one-way journey, it can't be undone, so think carefully before pressing it. But when you press it, all it does is reset the Fog of War based on where your current characters are. So that's all it does. So that's Fog of War on the caves front. We'll come back to this, but I just want to briefly show you an outdoors one, because I want to show you how Fog of War affects different token types. So here we have two different token types. We have they're both actually campaign assets. The only difference is this one's static. So if I try to drag it, it's stuck. It's part of the map in effect. That's the whole point. Campaign assets that are set as static are designed to be part of the map. So in this case, I've used this cave symbol to represent the Cragmore hideout that my party's just discovered. And the Fog of War system handles that differently from all the other token types, in that static tokens never have a reveal radius around them. So if I turn on Fog of War for this map, there's only a Fog of War radius around the party, not around the hideout. In fact, this default one's actually quite large for that, so what we can do is make that a smaller reveal area, reset Fog of War, and that's probably more appropriate for this map. So although there's a token there, and I've left its tooltips on, you can actually turn those off, but I've left it on for the purposes of this demo to prove that it is there. So although that token's there, it doesn't reveal itself in the fog, and the only way you can get it to reveal itself is by physically moving toward it with a token that can reveal fog, and then you'll find it will just pop out of the fog. So that's something to bear in mind. Static tokens are treated just like the terrain in effect. So that's the outdoor side. Going back to the indoor one, we turn off Fog of War. One thing you'll notice about Sojour's maps is the surrounding colour. In this case, it's I don't think it's pure white, but it's a whitish colour. And you'll note that the fog adopts exactly the same colour as the surround. In this version of Sojour, you can change this colour. In the past, you had no choice, but now you can actually change it. All you need to do is right-click your map and click Change the Fog Colour. And this is indoor cave thing, so let's go for black. But it could be any colour you want. You can even create your own custom colours, hit OK, and all of a sudden the background to the map is your selected colour. But more to the point, the fog now adopts that colour, so now we have a black fog for the caves, which might be more appropriate for deep dungeon delving. But that's a purely subjective thing, and it's up to you folks to pick whatever colours you feel are right for your map and for the kind of role-playing that you're doing. But Sojour does offer you the opportunity to pick the appropriate colours. So there's one more thing I'm going to show you now, and that is what's changed when you create a new map. So to do that, I'm actually going to delete the Cragmore hideout, and we're going to re-import it. I will warn you, I know from my previous videos that for whatever crazy reason, the PDF reader in my web browser, it makes my video recordings go nuts. You see lots of flashing, you see lots of big grey areas, but none of those are really there. I'm just seeing a normal window screen, and I won't know either until after the video gets processed, so just be aware you might see some video artifacting. So for those who don't know, Sojour has the ability to pull in maps directly from screenshots, and the idea being that you've bought your scenarios, and for some of them you've probably paid quite a lot of money for them, so why not have the ability to reuse that in a VTT very easily? And Sojour lets you do that. All you need to do is bring it to the foreground, go to Sojour, and on the maps click Add Map from Screenshot. And like I say, you might be seeing lots of flashing or grey areas right now, but that really isn't there. It looks like a normal window screen to me. All you need to do is drag a cursor around it. When you're happy, click again, and that will import that map into Sojour. And you can do the same with tokens as well. Sojour has functionality that automatically creates circular tokens, but there's another video for that, which you can see top right. So this is the new dialog window. In the past it was just the name, but now you can select a fog colour and whether or not Fog of War is on or not. So let's call this Cragmore 2. We'll leave the fog as white, but you can change it here. And for this one, we're going to go for maximum mystery. We're going to pretend we've never seen this published map before, and we want to keep it that way so as to retain our sense of mystery when we're playing. So we're going to click Fog of War, and what that does is it enables the Fog of War straight away. Now, both of these settings aren't critical insofar as you can change them at any time afterwards, just like we did with the previous map. So you're not locked into a decision by whatever you decide here. But as I say, for some of you, you might want to have that maximum mystery for a map you're putting in which case I highly recommend ticking Fog of War. What this does, it imports a map and it imports it with fog, so you can't see it. So some of you might be thinking that didn't work, but it really did, because if you put on the torch and shine it around, you can actually see the maps really there. It's just it's shrouded in its white fog. So the next thing to do, and I highly recommend this for all maps you put into Sojour, is to scale it, because when you scale it you can measure distances and lots of neat functionality becomes available to you which you don't get when a map's not scaled. So what Sojour does when you scale a map is the torch comes on automatically. So if we run the scaling wizard, you can see the torches come on. So now for Dungeons and Dragons it's 5 feet per square. Next, leave it red, that's the colour of the annotations, this map, and register. So now we have this little torch following us around. It means that we can successfully register this map without revealing it, basically. And there goes Sojour records 140 feet by 95 feet. Next, we'll leave the token sizes on auto and finish. So we're ready to go. We actually have a scaled map under the fog, you just can't see it. And this is where the torch functionality comes in handy for starting your adventures. Because imagine if you didn't have the torch, where would you drag your characters to? You'd have no idea where they're going to go. So I highly recommend that you turn on the torch when you first start your adventure. You can choose whether you want to go weak, standard or strong. For the purposes of this video, to enable you folks to better see things, I'm going to go for strong, but I don't necessarily recommend that. So now we have a strong preview, and like if you're going to drag Gary into the map, see how that follows him around, and you can just very precisely place him. So maybe he's in that corner of the woods, and maybe the rest of his party is going to join him as well. So AIS there, and maybe Cora's in here. And once you've dropped them in, you can turn off your mouse preview. And this is a great system because it means if you've never seen this map before, and if you went for Fog War straight away, this whole map is a complete mystery to you. You have no idea what's coming up. And that really adds to the sense of adventure and exploration. And like I say, for this party here, they have no idea what's in these caves. They have to go up and explore it themselves to see what lies ahead for them. And like I say, I'm pretty certain this will help with your role-playing sessions and get you to experience maybe some of the excitement your characters are experiencing in terms of, oh, I wonder where this leads, I wonder where that goes. And the only way you can figure that out is by moving your characters to the appropriate areas and role-playing that in the journals. So I feel this is a pretty big piece of functionality for Sojour, and it will hopefully really help your role-playing games. But as I've said, this is like, consider this the Mark 1 version, the initial iteration, and I'm sure that as I use it more often and as you folks use it more often, we can garner a set of additional requirements and then add those to Sojour. So this is just the first version, but I think even this first version provides everything that we need in order to preserve a map's overall mystery. So that's what I want to talk about Fog of War. In terms of where I'm going with Sojour, I have one more piece of functionality I want to add to maps, and I don't want to tell you about it. And it's not because I'm being secretive or anything like that. The reason why I don't want to talk about it is because it's quite experimental and I don't know if it's going to work. So the way I look at it, let me do the coding, and if the coding works out, great. I'll have another demo for you, and you'll be looking at that demo thinking, wow, I didn't know Sojour could do that. But basically, I don't want to overpromise, which is why I don't want to cover what's coming next. But once that's done, the intent then is I have a whole bunch of customer requests in and around calendars specifically, the toolbars, the ability to change their size, tables, and dice. So I have a lot of work on my plate. And please, be patient. There's only me coding this. I am the sole developer on this, and it's done in my free time. So basically, I work as a web developer by day, and I also have obviously other hobbies as well. So I devote time to this when I can. Although obviously, if any of you folks find what I consider a critical bug, I will generally put things down and get in there and get it fixed, because I'd much rather you folks had a good playing experience. So yeah, it'll be one more map enhancement, and then I'll be looking at calendars, tables, the toolbars, and dice, and plus I have a few other ideas of things I want to add myself. So that's it. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it informative, and I hope you like the functionality. If there's anything there you don't like, then put it in the comments and let me know, and then that way we can forge a better solution between ourselves. So again, thank you for watching, and goodbye.